Are you getting ready for your next event and you're curious what a speaker timer is? Or maybe you're a speaker and you're getting asked what you want on your speaker timer, or you're just someone who's curious about some of the tools available from the AV side of events to keep your event running on time. Well, I'm going to cover what a speaker timer is, give you some of the pros, cons, and I'm going to share some of the typical equipment we use, as well as a DIY solution if you are someone looking to do this on a budget. Before we get into it, I'm Logan Clements. I'm a freelance event producer based in Seattle, Washington, but I execute events here and all over the world. I do want to remind you to like, subscribe, turn on that little notification bell so you get notified every single Monday when I drop new videos. I'm also the co-host of the Better Events podcast with fellow event pro Mary Davidson, and we dive even more into some of these topics about event planning, event production, running your own business. Some recent episodes we have are about how to be a stage manager, talking about event engagement, how to engage attendees at your event, about the Certified Meeting Planner CMP certification, and is it worth it or not? So go and listen wherever you listen to podcasts. And I am happy to plug, if you're listening to this or watching it in 2024, I'm also hosting the Better Events Conference, which is going to be a 2-day conference, 1 day in person, 1 day virtual for event pros. So make sure you go to bettereventspod.com/conference to learn more. All right, so speaker timer. This is one of the really easy tools that I like to use at most of my events whenever I can to keep my programming running on time. And this is something that's so crucial is you're going to take all this time pre-event in the pre-planning process to map everything out. This is 2 minutes, this is 3 minutes, this is 15, this is 20. And then all of a sudden you get on site and your speaker talks for 40 minutes when you'd planned for 20. Now there's the trickle down effect where now your break's 20 minutes late, which makes your breakouts go 20 minutes, start 20 minutes late, and it can turn your day into chaos. And so a speaker timer is a great tool for you to have so that your speakers are able to manage their time. So what does a speaker timer look like? It looks like this. This is a DSAN speaker timer, and DSAN is just the name of the brand. And this is a red clock. If you're a sports person, we might call this a shot clock. You know, in basketball, they only have so much time to shoot. So this is a clock that you can then set with the amount of time that you want, programmable down to the second or usually into minutes. Like if you're giving your speaker 20 minutes, you can set this for 20 minutes and then it will count down from 20 all the way to 0. And then you have two different features. Once it hits 0, it'll either hold on 0 or you can have it count up for how many minutes over their time that they are. And on the left-hand side in this specific speaker timer, you're going to see a green, yellow, and red button. The green is showing that they're still tracking great on time. Yellow will be if they're getting in their final few minutes. And then once it starts blinking red, that is when they are over time. And it comes with a nice little programmable box. Usually your show caller or your producer or your AV tech in the back of the room would be the one who operates this. And so the information they're looking for is just, hey, Logan, for this session, what do you want the speaker timer to say? And for, let's say it's a panel, for example, and maybe it's a 45-minute session and you want 30 minutes for discussion and 15 minutes for Q&A. So this is where a speaker timer can be useful because you have a couple options. You could set it for just 45 minutes, and that would then count down to the end of the session, or you could split it up and count it into 30 minutes for that pre-part, it goes to 0, and then 15 minutes for the Q&A. Pros and cons to each. I just think no matter which method you use, make sure you effectively communicate that to your moderator or whoever needs to know, hey, I have a speaker timer for you here. It's going to be counting you down until the end of your session, or it's going to be counting you down to Q&A. Now, why would some speaker want that like 30 plus 15 method is you could count it down for 30 minutes and then let's say they go over or maybe they go under. You could then change the time for the Q&A and say they go over, as many panels do, and now they went 35 minutes. So you could then just give them a 10-minute timer for Q&A. So a speaker timer also gives you flexibility in the moment to adjust and communicate non-verbally to your speakers who are on stage how much time they have. Now, my pro tip with this is your speaker timer should not be aspirational. If you have some speakers that you know are always going to talk over the amount of time you give them, from the jump, from the start, you should be telling them they have less time than they actually do. So for example, I have an event where there's a CEO who loves to speak for long periods of time. And every year we have an issue with it going over and it pushes a lot of things are starting to run behind. So the strategy here would be to maybe tell him, oh, you have 10 minutes, knowing he probably might take 15 or 16 minutes. But you need to tell him he has 10. You put the speaker timer for 10 minutes, but then internally on your run a show, you're planning for that 16, 17, or even 20 minutes to make sure everything else runs on time. Now, the rub here is you're like, well, you're lying to the speaker. It's like, it's not really lying, but it's just helping them help themselves because they want everything to run on time too. And a challenge here can be if you're showing the speaker the exact timing for everyone, they'll be like, wait, this looks more like 15 minutes you have here for me. You told me 10. There's the rub in it. And you can sometimes then, not all speakers want to be told that they go long. But that speaker timer is just so helpful for keeping things on time. And this is usually a pretty low cost to add to your AV order. And I found it just to be so useful because you're unable to communicate those timing updates in another way that's not noticeable of you sending someone up with a note or to whisper in the ear of the speaker. This is just a good nonverbal cue. Now, if you are unable to afford renting this, or you're doing this on a smaller scale, or maybe you as the speaker just want to manage your time better, having there's apps that you can download that'll show you speaker times at a much lower cost. You can also just even having a timer going with your phone on the podium works as well. I've done it for some events where we can't afford a timer. We'll just do like my iPad. I'll download an app and do some counting for them. But just having some track of real time is really important, both to keep speakers on time, but also, just to keep your whole event on time. And my last bonus tip for you is if you do any kind of like group discussion or, hey folks, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do something, set a timer because your perception both as the speaker and as the organizer is probably going to be off from what it actually is. And this is something that even if I have a speaker who says, I'll set a timer, no problem. If I'm working the event, I'm also setting a timer if they say, okay, you have 3 minutes to discuss. And that just, again, keeps you from losing time in inefficient ways and putting your event time toward things that matter. So that's a speaker timer. Hopefully you learned something new about how to manage your time at events. I'm Logan Clements. I'm a freelance event producer based in Seattle, Washington, but I execute events here and all over the world. I appreciate you for sticking with me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.